Welcome to this section of this course. In this video, we are going to be talking about functions and how we can make use of them. So what exactly is a function? A function is just a block of code that does a specific task. So let's say, for example, you wanted to make a simple calculator. You could write a function for adding numbers, a function for subtracting, a function for dividing, and a function for multiplying. So a function basically is just a block of code or chunks of code that does one specific task. So now if we look at the screen right now, we can see this int main. We've kind of been using this in the past, like 12 videos, but this itself is a function. This is called the main function, and anytime we run our code, the main function always gets executed first. So we are going to see how we're going to understand how functions work a little bit more. So again, I said anytime you run your program, it is a main function that gets run first. So now I am going to teach you how to create your own function. So in order to create a function, you need to give C some parameters. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to specify what return type your function is going to give back. That is, anytime your function has finished running, what kind of data does your function return back? So we have to specify it, whether it's an integer, it's a char, whether it's a double. So we have to specify it before creating the function. So for now, we are not going to really talk about return types, but in the next video we're going to dig deep into it. So for now, we'll just create a function, and then the first return type we pass in is void. What that means is that our function isn't going to return anything. So it's just going to perform a task, but it's not returning anything. So what I'm going to say, what we need to do is we first need to specify the return type. Then we now need to create a name for the function. So I'm going to call it hello. And after typing in the name, just put curly brackets like put parentheses like that, and then curly brackets. So once you've done this, this is a function. Now the starting and ending of a function are denoted by this open and close curly brackets. The same thing for the main function, open and close curly brackets. So when you are exiting a function, it is at this point where the curly brackets closes. So now we've created a function called hello, and then let's just say we want this function to print something to the terminal. Like for example, let's just say we want the function to print my name is the Proton guy. So let's just say we want the function to print f my name is the Proton guy. Now I want you to take note of something. Once we run this code, you'll notice that nothing gets printed out in the terminal. Now, why does nothing get printed out in the terminal? The reason why nothing gets printed out is because, remember in the beginning of this video, I said the only function that gets run anytime you run your code is the main function. So now the question that now comes up is, how do we run our hello function? Now we can run this function by doing what is called calling the function. So since the main function is the only function that runs anytime we run our program, what we now need to do is call this hello function inside the main function. So we do that by saying hello, and then we put the curly brackets, the parentheses and the semicolon. So what this means is that we've created a function called hello, but it can't run by itself because the main function only runs. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this hello function right inside the main function. So once I run, let me clear the terminal. Once I run this code, I enlarging the terminal, you can see it's first giving an error, and then it's now printing my name is Proton guy. So the error says, note, previous implicit declaration of hello was here. So what the error means is that So first, in our main function, we are trying to call this hello function. But remember that once C is runs this program, it runs it line by line. So when it gets to this point, it doesn't necessarily know where the hello function is, but it runs the code, right? But it doesn't necessarily know where the hello function is. That is why we are getting this error. So in order to clear that error, what we need to do is just copy this function that we have created and then paste it above the main function. So once we let me widen up the terminal. Once we run this code now, you can see that my name is the Proton guy gets printed out and we have no errors. So that is how to create a function basically. And then you can write any sort of code in your function. Like I said earlier, you can create several functions to do several tasks like multiplication, addition, and all that. Now there's also something that we can do called passing in parameters. So let's say, for example, we didn't want to pass in the Proton guy here, but we wanted to pass it in as a variable. Now I will show you how we can do it. So first, we need to come into the parentheses of our hello function, and we need to create a variable. And I'll say char name, and I'll leave it like that. So what I'm trying to do is I am trying to create a parameter that can be passed into this function where we can access it in my printf function. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So instead of saying my name is the Proton guy, I'm just going to remove that and pass in %s, and I'll put a comma and just pass in name. So in essence, anytime we're now running this hello function, we need to pass in a parameter into the hello function so that the value can be used in this printf function. So I'm just going to pass in the Proton guy. Now, once I run this function, let me clear out the terminal. Once I run this function, you can see it prints out my name is the Proton guy. It's able to do this because in the hello function, we had declared that this function takes one parameter, which is a string or a string of characters. And then once we are taking in that parameter, we now want to print out my name is plus the parameter that has been passed into the function. Now we can also pass in like another parameter like age. So I could say int age. And then because it's now taking in two parameters, I'll have to come down and pass in the second parameter. So let's just say like 75. So inside this printf, I would say my name is the Proton guy and I am %d years old. So I'm just going to come here. After passing in name, I'll pass in age. So I'm going to save this now and run this code in the terminal. So you can see that it now says my name is the Proton guy and I am 75 years old. So what we have done now is we created a function called hello, and then the function takes in two parameters, name and age. And then it's now the function prints out the person's name and then how old the person is. So in order to run this hello function, we have to call the hello function inside the main function. And then we also have to pass in the parameters that are needed, that is the name and the age. If we do not pass in any parameters inside here, for example, let's run this code and see what error it gives us. So let me enlarge in this. You can see that it gives an error declared here. So it said error, too few arguments to function hello. So it's just trying to tell us that it expected two parameters or two arguments to be passed into the hello function, but none were passed in. So that is how to pass in parameters into a function in the C programming language. So let's just create a second function to, like, for example, do the square root of a number. So I'm going to say or double. So first, I want to create a function that performs the square root of a number and returns that value to us, or prints out that value. So first, we need to declare what kind of return type, actually we don't need to specify that for now. In the next video, we are going to talk about return types. So first, I will create another function, and the return type will be void, and then the name of the function will be squ square underscore root, square underscore roots. And then in here, it's just going to take in one value, which is an integer. So I'm going to pass in int num. So the function is taking in one parameter, which is an integer. So I'm just going to print f. Okay, in order to perform square root, we need to import the math.h function. So I'm going to say hashtag include math.h. So when we now want to perform the square root of this number, I'm going to say the square square root of %d is %f. So what I'm going to pass in first is num, because we're trying to say the square root of this number that has been passed in is comma %f. In here, we're now going to pass in sqrt, and this sqrt is coming from the math.h function. So sqrt num, and then let's put our semicolon right there. So again, if we run this function isn't going to run. The only way to run is if we call this square root function inside the main function. So I'm going to call the square root function inside the main function right now, and I'm just going to say square root, and I'm going to pass in, for example, 25. So let's see how this runs. So let me just put a \n here, or not there. Let me put a \n here to space things out properly. And I'll enlarge in the terminal. So once I run this code right now, you can see that it first prints out my name is Proton Guy and I am 75 years old. That is coming from this first function. And then we pass in the parameters, the Proton Guy and 75. So what it did is it first came here and saw that we are calling the hello function. So it came up to the hello function, passed in those parameters, and ran the printf function. It now came down to line 15 and saw that we are passing in the square root function. We are calling the square root function and we are passing in 25 as a parameter. So it now came to the square root function and passed in 25 here. And you can see the result in the terminal is the square root of 25 is 5.0. So basically that is just how to create different functions that perform specific tasks in your code. Now if you have any question, please don't forget to ask me in the comment section and I will reply you. And in the next video we're going to talk about return statements and how to actually declare the return type properly and declare what kind of data we are returning and return data to the back to the main function. So thank you for watching this video and I'll see you in the next one.